So I ate fully plant-based, just overnight, changed everything for about 5 weeks or so. And I had noticed the pain was better, but I really didn't have much belief in it. So I went in for this hysterectomy and he woke me up less than an hour. And he just had this look on his face that you never want to see on your doctor's face. And he said, I don't know what's going on. 95% of your endometriosis is gone. I had tremendous scarring, he said, and I had that adhesion. And he said, I've never seen this before. This is a miracle. And my mom said, oh, she's been trying this weird diet.
Hey everybody, today I'm interviewing Katherine Lawrence. Katherine has a really incredible story. I'm excited to share it. I've never interviewed anyone with this healing story before. And I think it's great because, there are so many interviews I've done with people who've healed advanced cancers. I've interviewed Dr. Brooke Goldner, who healed her lupus, Dr. Sarai Stancic, who healed her MS. And I love to share these incredible healing stories because I think a lot of people still don't understand that changing your diet and your lifestyle can reverse many or even most chronic diseases that are caused by diet and lifestyle. And the public has been generally led to believe that the chronic diseases that come upon you, whether it's heart disease or cancer or diabetes or autoimmune diseases, are just bad luck. And there's nothing you can do to reverse them. And you just have to take medication for the rest of your life. And many of us in the holistic health community know that's not true. Like you can change your daily routine and help your body heal. So Katherine's story is she was working as an aerospace engineer. She's apparently pretty smart. In 2006, and she was diagnosed with stage 4 endometriosis, ovarian and uterine cysts. She was told there was no cure. She was told she was infertile. She was told she needed a hysterectomy and that was her only option. And yet, by radically changing her diet, she was able to reverse her condition, have 3 boys, and that, changed the course of her life. And she's now a nutritionist, has been for 17 years, trained through Cornell and Stanford, worked for Dr. T. Colin Campbell and Dr. Neil Barnard. She's just an awesome force for good. And so I'm excited for you to hear her story and be inspired by it and educated by it and get to know Katherine Lawrence. So Katherine, thanks for taking the time to do this interview.
Thank you so much for having me and letting me share my story. I'm an avid admirer of yours and your work. So thank you for what you're putting out there. I think it's so important. I never would have thought that this would have been my line of work, but I feel incredibly blessed for what I went through so I can teach others, which I'm sure is how you feel about it too. My story is just, I didn't see it coming, I guess. I was a pretty terrible eater, I would think. I never gave much, weight to what my nutrition was. I'm from Louisiana and I just kind of figured like, well, if you're thin, then you're healthy. And that's about all I knew. So this was all a big, learning experience for me. I was working as an engineer when I got sick. And it was wild. They really couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. I was at home on short-term disability. I had incredible abdominal pain, and they thought at first I had colonitis and all kinds of like digestive problems. And so this took months and months to figure out. And I was in the military after college, and they got you working out a lot, right? All the time. And so when I got out and I was working as an engineer, I swore I'm never getting up at 5 a.m. to work out again. And so that meant that I piled on a bunch of weight, and because my diet was atrocious. So I had gained maybe 30, 40 pounds at the time when I was sick. It was about 185 pounds. And I was having these pains, and finally they figured it out. I had stage 4 endometriosis. And the reason I was having these digestive pains is because my endo had wrapped around my colon. and it had formed adhesions to between my colon and my abdominal wall. So anytime my large intestine tried to move or expand, it was just really painful. And I had never heard of endometriosis or anything like that. My mom and my grandmother had a lot of reproductive problems, had hysterectomies in their 30s. And so I just figured, oh, like you said, like this is that random thing. I just got it. And that's what women have in my family. So I'm going to do what they say. And I remember asking the doctor, because I drank a lot of sodas too at the time. And I asked him, I said, does this have anything to do with how I'm eating? And he said, oh, no, it's got nothing to do with it. There's no cure for this. And oddly, I remember feeling relieved. I felt like I was 27. And I thought, oh, thank goodness it's not my fault. I have no part in this. It's just random. So I took comfort in that. And
let me interject right here, because that's the worst thing ever, right?
Yeah.
It's the most disempowering thing
Yeah.
that a doctor can do for a patient. And they do it all the time in the cancer industry.
Mm-hmm.
And all the time in just regular internal medicine, where they just say, oh, it's nothing you did. You don't need to change anything about your life. It's not your fault. It's bad luck. As I alluded to earlier, right? Just bad luck. It's random, but we've got some medications for you or whatever. And then, like you said, you felt this sense of relief, like, oh, okay, it's not my fault, and so I don't need to change my life.
Mm-hmm. I think there's an assumption. I learned this working with Dr. Campbell, with so many medical professionals coming through our program. I think there's this assumption, or maybe they're taught that people just would never be open to diet change. So it's not worth having that conversation, which is a shame. And unfortunately, at that time, I was one of those people. I wasn't really open to it. The only reason I pursued anything was because my mom, I was an only child, and she wanted to have grandkids. And she kept sending me information, and she had hooked me up with a nutritionist in my area. And I just honestly wanted to be able to tell my mom I had tried everything while I was waiting on this hysterectomy. And it was made I was scared. I was told, your case is so aggressive. And given that with your family history, you're really high risk for endometrial cancer. And, I don't know anything. I'm an engineer. Okay, sure. And those odds really scared me into, I was going to blindly have this hysterectomy, change the course of my entire life without really asking many questions. And my mom, she connected me. It actually ended up being a macrobiotic nutritionist, which I didn't know anything about at that time, which I just have so much respect for. And I remember the nutritionist talking to me about, what was in my diet, and I should look at removing meat and dairy and just have whole foods. And I remember thinking to myself, oh my goodness, the only thing left if I take that stuff out is sugar. And then she said, well, then you need to remove sugar. And it was shocking. So I remember going home, and I was kind of scared. I'm like, I'm just going to do this, for a little bit till the surgery. And I would have like little piles. I would have like a pile of broccoli on my plate and a pile of rice. I had no idea rice was brown, by the way. In Louisiana, we eat a lot of rice. It's always white rice. But I had like brown rice and then like a little pile of beans from a can or something. It was terrible. And I remember making myself eat it and crying and thinking, this is ridiculous. He said it's not the food. And I really, really wanted that way out. But some things happened in my doctor's life. He lost his parents. And so the procedure kept getting delayed. And I think that's just the best blessing God ever gave me, was that delay, because it forced me to keep trying this way of eating. So I ate fully plant-based, just overnight, changed everything for about 5 weeks or so. And I had noticed the pain was better, but I really didn't have much belief in it. And with my doctor not believing, that was just another, I didn't want to be like crazy, or, how sometimes you're, I think stories are told to patients is that kind of sets them on the outside, like, well, that's a fringe approach sort of thing. And I really didn't want to do that. And so I wasn't pressing the issue with him. So I went in for this hysterectomy, and it was supposed to be like a partial at first. And he woke me up, less than an hour. And he just had this look on his face that you never want to see on your doctor's face. And he said, I don't know what's going on. 95% of your endometriosis is gone. I had tremendous scarring, he said, and I had that adhesion. And he said, I've never seen this before, because mine didn't come and go. Mine was aggressive, and it was building for years before I got to this point and to him. And he said, I've never seen this before. This is a miracle. And my mom said, oh, she's been trying this weird diet. He said, that's not it. It's a miracle. And I just, looking back on that now, I think the gravity, like the power of his influence in that moment, what an opportunity he could have had to encourage me to embrace healthy eating. And I remember, because I felt very alone. This was 18 years ago in Texas. People were making fun of me by the way I was eating, and I didn't feel like I had much community support. And I remember when he said that, no, it's not her diet change, it's a miracle. I remember feeling somewhat disappointed. I thought, oh my gosh, it is the food, and I don't know how to eat this way, and it doesn't taste good, and nobody wants to come over to my house and eat anymore. And I remember being like feeling very scared and alone in that moment. And fast forward to now, there are a lot of doctors I work with who are open to this, who in that situation, they would say, you know what, it is the food, and let me give you some resources, and let me connect you with this. And, with different doctors with different motives, I think, for more holistic approach. And so I stayed on it, and I couldn't, I never ended up having to get the hysterectomy. I really did not buy in, though. It took about 6 months of me doing this very reluctantly in kind of an obstinate way. And, but after 6 months, I had lost almost 50 pounds, and I wasn't even trying. I was starting to get new hair growth at 27. Like, I had new hair coming in, and my cholesterol had come down, my blood pressure, I got off all those medications. But what did it for me is that I've had, and I think there's a lot of misinformation about this, so I'm glad that you're letting me talk about it. I had 7 fibroid cysts in my breasts, and I'd had them since I was a teenager, like since I went through puberty. And guess what? Every woman in my family has these. And so I always thought, oh, this is just a Robinette woman thing. And after 6 months of changing my diet, and it was more macrobiotic with miso and things like that, those had completely dissolved. And I thought, that's where I took a step back, and I said, oh, hold on, like, this seems to be the diet that works best for me. And I've never looked back ever since then. He told me I'd never have kids. Even if I didn't have the hysterectomy, he said, there's too much damage. And I went on to have 3 boys, and all of my pregnancies were completely whole food, plant-based. And the kids people always ask, so I want to clarify, the kids are tall, and they're smart and they're strong, and they have lots of energy. They wear me out, these 3 boys.
You didn't stunt their growth.
Right. That's always, oh, you didn't do that during your pregnancy, though. I thought I absolutely did. And
okay.
Don't worry, we're okay.
I love your story. This is amazing. And I want to summarize it. I want to recap it, and then also unpack some things you said. So you diagnosed in 2006, right? Mm-hmm. You went whole food plant-based for 5 weeks, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then we're supposed to have the surgery, and 95% of it was gone in 5 weeks.
Yeah.
I mean,
all the active part was gone. It was just scarring.
Isn't that amazing? Like, and I say this all the time, like, you would be shocked at how fast your body can heal. And what I say is in 90 days, mm-hmm. right? I mean, but even shorter. I mean, we see incredible turnarounds in 30 days. But like, if you really go hardcore for 90 days, you can just see incredible things improve. Yes. And so that's amazing that 5 weeks in, but it's also funny to me that even 5 weeks in, then your doctor comes in and says, no, it's a miracle.
Right.
And this is a perfect opportunity for me to address this problematic belief system that you can only heal through medicine or miracles.
Mm-hmm.
This is a pervasive false belief system, right?
Mm-hmm.
That either medicine will fix you or a miracle will fix you, and there's nothing in between. Nothing you can do can fix you. And I just reject that. It's completely false. Your choices can fix you. Your diet can fix you. Your lifestyle changes can fix you. Forgiveness can fix you. You can heal by doing these things. And this is, I know what you're all about, is like giving people their power back, getting them out of this state of victimhood where, again, it's not up to me. Either God's going to heal me or a doctor's going to heal me, but there's nothing I'm doing to contribute to my problem, right?
Yeah.
And it's sort of a state of denial, right? That's reinforced by the doctors. It's amazing that first he said, no, the diet's not going to help you. And then when the diet's helping you, then he's still telling you, no, it's not the diet. And you were still doubting that it was the diet for another 4 or 5 months until you finally like, maybe it is the diet.
Yeah. Well, and think about it. What you're saying is creating generational harm. My mom and my grandmother, my cousin all had these problems. No one talked to them along the way. And so I grew up eating the way my mother ate, and she grew up eating the way my grandmother ate. And so we perpetuate these problems that could have been stopped generations ago. And that's the danger in what's happening and what you're saying by not stopping this with education. My children are being raised completely different from a food perspective than how I was raised, because I don't want my boys to have reproductive problems. It's more than just affecting our own health, but it's perpetuating this into the future, which I think bothers me the most.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, animal consumption is deeply ingrained into human tradition, and meat and dairy taste good, right? Chicken and cheese tastes good. Eggs and steak and sausage taste good. Like, I get it, right? It tastes good. But yeah, it's one of those things. It's hard to imagine. Like, is this? I mean, it tastes so good. I'm enjoying it. How could this be bad for me? Like, I feel fine after I eat it. Typically, right? But there's this slow progression. And there's another common sort of belief system we kind of laugh about, because I jokingly like to say, everybody thinks they're healthy,
Yeah.
right? Everybody thinks they're healthy. They get sick and they're like, but I was healthy, right? They get cancer, but how did I get cancer? I was healthy. It's like, you weren't though, like you were on the path to disease, and it was manifesting slowly over time, right? It was until finally, and it's like that expression, like change happens gradually and then suddenly, right? And so it's like you're gradually getting unhealthier, and then boom, now you have the pain, right? Now you have the symptoms, but it didn't just happen overnight. And your choices contributed, and your environment contributed. So sometimes it's not necessarily the person's choices, but they're in a really toxic environment. They may be working in a chemical factory. There may be, really bad environmental pollution in their neighborhood, right?
And a lot of stress too.
And stress is huge because it suppresses your immune system, promotes inflammation. So it's like, you have to be willing to, one, read and research, like learn what is causing human disease, right? And then connect the dots in your own life. Like, which of these disease-causing factors is present in my life? And usually it's like most of them, it's most of them. It's the bad diet. It's not exercising. It's stress. It's bitterness and resentment, anger, right? Some environmental pollution, some, toxic home cleaning products and body care products. Like, it's kind of like there's a lot of contributors, but the good news is it's like, wow, there's so much I can change for the better.
A lot of times it just doesn't occur to us and to most of my students I teach until something drastic happens. I think, and for some people, diet isn't the first thing that opens the door. For me, it was, but then I started learning about, like you said, like all these chemicals that I was rubbing on my body every day, and where's my water coming from, and then it kind of opened my awareness to a lot of other unhealthy, toxic things that I had going on. But diet was the first step for me. And often I see that with my students as sometimes the most difficult, you know. I also
Yeah.
see that a lot of times these signs that we're not healthy are, we don't associate them with being sick. Like people who don't sleep well, a lot of, like I think a third of Americans have trouble sleeping, and they don't recognize that your food has a massive effect on how well you sleep. They just kind of put that like, oh, I'm not a good sleeper. And they put that in a box, but that's separate from like my dietary and nutrition. So, choices. And so I find a lot of that sort of, we have a very limited view of how we define ourselves as healthy, you know?
Yeah. Well, and you mentioned too that you were on some pharmaceutical drugs,
Mhm.
right? Leading up to your endometriosis. And what were you on?
Oh goodness. So I went I went to war in the military. I was in the Iraq war. So I had 7 rounds of anthrax because they kept losing my medical records when I deployed. So I had a lot of that built up in my system, and some PTSD when I had come home. So I was on Prozac for a while. And at the time when I had gotten out and I was in the military, I think both of those can stay in your system quite a while. But at the time I was on cholesterol medication. It was a statin. I don't remember the blood pressure medication. It was very low dose, but I had, mixed that with all of the chemicals I was getting from soda. I was microwaving my food for lunch every day in plastic containers. I was drinking from plastic bottles, and then just not even caring about what I was washing my clothes in, or fragrances in my home, or beauty care stuff. And it all kind of created this perfect storm. And
Yeah, there's that synergistic toxicity of all of these, right? All these little toxic elements in your life, right? From the Glade plugins, right, to the laundry detergent, to the dish detergent, to the body care, to what's
yeah.
in the food, all the preservatives, additives, artificial flavors, colors, all that junk. Yeah, it all adds up.
And then taking a
And
medicine,
the pharmaceuticals.
who knows how it's altering other things. There's so many, I see so much of that too. A student will be taking a medicine for one thing, but then it's having effects on other things. And it's just kind of cascades
Yeah.
into a bad place, to toxicity. So it
Yeah, and I
was
think a lot of folks don't make that connection, right? They develop some kind of health condition and they don't make the connection like, oh, wait, maybe the medication I'm on is
right.
causing this new problem, right? And
Yes.
they just go to the doctor and they get more medication for the new problem. Now they're taking 2 drugs, or they're taking 3 drugs instead of 1, And so yeah, that is one of the first things that you need to look at, right? If something starts manifesting in your life, some chronic disease, it's like, well, wait a second, are you on pharmaceuticals?
Yeah.
Well, let's look up the side effects.
Yeah.
What you're experiencing may be a known side effect of the drug you're on. Like, let's just do a little quick research. Like, it's easy to learn that directly from the drug manufacturer's websites. But
Yeah.
so then you got off those medications,
Yeah.
right?
Got
So
all
your
that.
cholesterol went down, of course. I mean, people don't. Isn't it crazy that you know what I'm about to say?
It's
Isn't
crazy
it?
how we attribute so much to our genetics. Yeah,
Yeah.
we just write it
Well,
off. Yeah.
that too. And I was just going to say, isn't it crazy that there are still so many cholesterol deniers?
Yeah.
Doctors and people who love to eat animal food who say, "Oh, your blood cholesterol is not influenced by eating cholesterol." It is the biggest bunch of baloney. Like,
It
every single person, I'm not exaggerating, every single person in our community, and I bet you can say the same thing for your community, who stops eating cholesterol,
Mhm.
their cholesterol goes down, and it goes down a lot,
A
like
lot.
into a normal healthy range over time. Sometimes it drops like in 30 days, huge. Sometimes it takes 6 months to really drop big, but it always drops, and it drops a lot.
Yes. I have a fun story around this if you want to hear it.
Please.
When I got sick, I was dating an engineer that I worked with, and he was from Chicago. And so I was making all my Cajun food for us, gumbo and etouffee. And then I would make him deep dish pizza and brats and like all those foods. And when I got sick, it was around the same time, our company required blood work, and he went in, he was younger than me. He was 23, and his cholesterol was around like 225, 230. It was really high.
Yeah, it's pretty high.
And I remember they sent him to the cardiologist, and the cardiologist said, "Oh, because his mother and father, all their family, like they had brain aneurysms from cholesterol buildup, they're all on medication. Heart disease was their genetic predisposition." And so I remember very clearly the doctor told him, "Well, since yours is genetic, the most that food can affect your cholesterol is only 10%. And I was just at the beginning kind of my learning phase. And I said, "Well, I think we should try this. Like, he doesn't need to be on statins his whole life." He said, "That's fine, but I'll see you in a month because he's only going to lower it 10 or 20 points. I'm like, "Okay." So we went home. I didn't really know anything except the basics I learned from this woman. And I just cooked for him. And it was all plant-based, and he could still have his beer, but he just had to eat my food. And we went back in 30 days, Chris, and it had dropped from 226 to 160 in 30
Whoa.
days. And the
Yeah.
cardiologist asked, like, "Well, what else are you doing?" I said, "No, I'm giving him fiber, which apparently removes cholesterol." And then we stopped eating. Like, "Why aren't you telling people stop eating cholesterol?" I was shocked. And then he stayed on this while we were dating for quite some time. And his cholesterol was, it hovered around 130. I mean, it was amazing for someone surrounded with such a strong propensity for heart disease to be able to get rid of it. And the doctor never said anything. He completely dismissed it. And I see a lot of doctors still do that, just because they don't know. And it's it could save so many lives.
For anybody that is not exactly sure, I want to be very clear about this. Every source of animal food contains cholesterol. So whether it's chicken, pork, beef, fish, right? Eggs, cheese, right? They all contain cholesterol. There is no cholesterol in plant food. So any animal food you eat, you're eating cholesterol. And one of the biggest sources of cholesterol in our diet is from chicken, because we eat so much chicken. And so, yeah, literally when you stop eating cholesterol, your cholesterol drops dramatically. And there's one other thing, and I'm curious about your diet and your boyfriend's diet, is we also know that when you eat saturated fat, it encourages the liver, stimulates the liver to produce cholesterol. So yes. Was your boyfriend on a restricted, like saturated fat or no oils type of diet, or what did it look like back then?
When I changed it? So his diet was high in saturated fat before
but after, like, was there the plant-based diet?
Oils. No, even at that time, I don't use oils anymore, but at that time, being macrobiotic, we did use a toasted sesame oil. So this was fully plant-based, but using toasted sesame oil, I would say.
Yeah. Was he eating like things like nuts and seeds or avocados?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nuts and seeds and tofu and lots of beans. I think something that gets left out of this cholesterol conversation is not just removing it, sorry, but plants have this magical thing called fiber, and fiber is designed to remove extra cholesterol. So I really focused on getting him a lot of fiber. We ate a lot of whole grains as well, a lot of brown rice and quinoa, millet, those types of things. And we did fermented foods. And in 30 days, I mean, it's remarkable what can be done in 30 days. And that was with oil. Once we got out of the oils, then he maintained it around 130 for a long, long, long time. Yeah.
Yeah. And obviously it continued to drop. So dropped from 225 to 160 in 30 days, and then dropped more down to about 130 and then stabilized. So it'll never drop to zero, because your body makes all the cholesterol you need, right? Your body makes cholesterol. Your liver makes it for you, and it makes as much as you need. And so, I just love that so much. What a great example. And here's a 30-day challenge I want to just issue to everybody listening. If you have high cholesterol, and by high, I mean, if you're over 150,
Mhm.
right? Not just over 200. The doctors like to say over 200, or the
Oh,
guidelines say over 200 is high, but that's because so many people are unhealthy, right?
yeah.
And so really, if you're over 150, your cholesterol is elevated. If you're approaching 200, it's definitely high. Over 200 is, nobody's going to argue that that is high. But anyway, here's a 30-day challenge. Whole food, plant-based, eliminate all animal foods from your diet for 30 days, and then go get your blood work done.
Yes.
That's the challenge. And I can almost assure you, if you don't cheat, if you actually do this, eat whole plant foods, fruits and vegetables, nuts and seeds, whole grains, legumes, herbs and spices, right? All you want, you will lower your cholesterol. It should be mentioned that your liver is excreting excess cholesterol into your digestive tract. So it makes cholesterol for you, but it also is regulating the amount of cholesterol you have. So it's trying to excrete excess cholesterol, and it does. And for reasons unknown to me, fiber absorbs that cholesterol and you poop it out. And the same with estrogen. Fiber absorbs excess estrogen that your liver is dumping and you poop it out. But if you eat a high animal food diet, for whatever reason, that cholesterol and estrogen and other problematic hormones and chemicals and stuff in your body end up getting reabsorbed into your bloodstream. And then they just stay elevated.
Yep. If fiber's not there to catch them, it's called enterohepatic circulation. So
Let's talk about that.
Well, it basically gets another chance if your liver goes through all this trouble to try to remove this excess stuff. And I do want to say most women, just like me, are existing living in an excess of estrogen. We have got this massive overage of estrogen, and that's what's creating endo and cysts and PCO, all this stuff, and infertility. And so we need fiber. And so when we don't have enough fiber in the diet to attach to the cholesterol and excess hormones and toxins and things, it gets reabsorbed into the bloodstream, and then it gets a second chance. So don't give it the second chance. And I want to say something about your 30-day challenge, which I think is awesome. You're not just going to notice your cholesterol come down and maybe your blood pressure too. You're going to notice, I hear from most of my students, that your sleep gets better. Your sleep gets better. You feel different. You feel less emotional, especially for women who have not gone through menopause yet. That lowering of the fat and increasing fiber helps to kind of regulate hormones better and emotions. You'll notice that your mood changes, and hopefully in that time you can find recipes you really love and you just get addicted to how you feel. I always had to remind myself when I was changing my diet overnight, like, hey, Taco Bell is still going to be there next month. And then it was like further putting it off but I had to remind myself, it's all that junk is still going to be there. It doesn't hurt me to try this for 30 days. And then I just got hooked on it.
I should add, in the 30-day challenge, obviously, I have to realize that people might need more clarity, but yeah, you got to cut out the soft drinks, right?
Oh gosh. Yes.
Right. So what do you drink? Water. Drink water. And tea is wonderful. Drink herbal teas, green tea, even black tea. These are wonderful. Okay. But yeah, cut out the sodas, cut out the energy drinks, cut out the alcohol. Right. So like 30-day challenge of drinking lots of water and eating whole fruits and vegetables, whole plant foods from the earth, and just treat it as a personal experiment. Boom. And then we'll see what happens. And I'm looking forward to saying I told you so, because it works.
Yeah, it does. And for men who are like middle age and up, they'll notice a difference in their libido. If they have ED, that's actually one of the funnest. And my husband and I teach a class together on sex, and the men who come to the class, they notice differences within the week with their sex drive, and it can really change a relationship when that gets healed in a man. And so many don't know that correlation to heart disease and cholesterol and blood pressure, that these are all, ED is just a sign. It's just another symptom of cardiovascular disease. So that's a fun thing that they should.
Yeah, and it's an early warning symptom. right? This is an early warning symptom of cardiovascular disease, which is reversible when you have erectile dysfunction. And it's because you've got way too much saturated fat and cholesterol pulsing through your arteries and veins and clogging up these tiny capillaries and restricting blood flow. And guess what? When you stop eating it, those levels, they just go back down to normal, and your blood flows, your blood thins out. You don't need blood thinners. If you stop eating a bunch of fat, fat makes your blood thick, right? And so when you stop eating fat, at least a fat from animal sources, saturated fat and cholesterol, your blood thins out naturally, and it flows to all the places it's supposed to go.
And everyone wins.
Yeah, right. And things work as properly designed. I'm glad you brought that up. Hey, one other thing you said that I wanted to revisit is that too much estrogen obviously is problematic, right? And this recirculation of estrogen is a major problem for women, but also the xenoestrogens.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Which are from all the plastics and the toxic body care products and all these chemical ingredients. Some of them are classified as xenoestrogens, which means like, alien or foreign estrogen, but they're estrogen-like compounds that wreak havoc in your body, that cause the sort of harmful byproducts of excess estrogen. And those are things your liver is trying to eliminate too. That, again, when you stop slathering all this toxic stuff on your body with the makeup and the body care, when you change your shampoo, like just start to be very mindful of reducing your exposure to plastics and all this stuff, then guess what? You're reducing your toxic load, and eating lots of fiber, you're able to flush out the stuff that's accumulated, and things get better.
And these xenoestrogens are especially harmful to the reproductive system. That's our least active system. And so that's kind of where they get stored. And so a lot of cysts and things like fibroids and all that have really strong origin ties to xenoestrogens. And can I add a little bit to that too? Because we talked about things that we put on the outside of our body. But as a woman, I think we're doing our young women a disservice by not talking about what's going inside their body. And this was shocking to me after I had been on this journey to find out things that I was taught to use for like my menstrual cycle and personal care. They're loaded with xenoestrogens, with chemicals that cause vaginal cancers, and it even goes as far as I'm sorry, I'm not trying to make your podcast about sex, but I mean, it goes as far as like condoms have dangerous chemicals on them and other things, but people use during that experience. They're exceptionally dangerous for women. All of these, you have the xenoestrogen issue from the plastic and whatever foreign substances in there, but then you also have chemicals directly known to cause some of these reproductive cancers, and they're even more absorbed because they're inside us. So it's I mean, for women, it's everywhere. It's what you're consuming with your mouth, what you're rubbing on the outside of your body, and anything that might be put in it needs to be considered, because it all adds up, right?
It does. It all adds up. And I'm glad you brought it up, even though now we're PG-13.
Oh no. We need to be talking about that. I wish someone had told me,
right. We just assume, it's just so easy to assume that everything sold in the store is not bad for you, right? It's just like, it's once your eyes are open, it's like, oh my gosh, there's like so many products are not regulated as they should be. And manufacturers of, name it, right? Any type of product, X, Y, and Z, are allowed to use all kinds of chemicals that can cause problems to you with prolonged exposure. And again, it's usually not just one thing. Like we said earlier, it's not like, oh, it's not just your deodorant. It's all the things. But don't be overwhelmed. It's okay, because all of those things can be changed. Like just making these simple shifts from a sort of large commercial toxic brand to clean, conscientious, non-toxic brands, from toothpaste to deodorant. There's so many now.
Yeah.
There's so many. I mean, even in 2003, when I was changing all my stuff, it wasn't hard to go to Whole Foods and pick, the healthier toothpaste, right? And the non-toxic deodorant and things like that. So, I mean, there's more products now. In fact, people message me all the time. They're like, "What do you think about this product and that product?" Like, I can't even keep up, right? There's
There's
too many. I don't know. There's too many healthy brands now. It's a positive problem.
Yeah, but diet is still the most important because
Yeah.
ultimately we're going to get chemicals, we're going to get toxins. We do want to minimize it, but we really, really need that fiber to help get that out. We need something working from the inside to get rid of, whatever might sneak past us, despite our best efforts. I mean, it's everywhere, it seems. So
My
diet.
first meal of the day.
Mhm.
Sorry to interrupt. I mean,
Oh, go
my
ahead.
first meal of the day is a fiber bomb. I mean, it's oatmeal. It's a full cup of dry oats
Mhm.
cooked. It's 2 to 4 tablespoons of chia, 2 tablespoons of flaxseed, either fresh or dried fruit mixed in there, like apricots or black currants or figs or blueberries. Yeah, I mean, so it is like,
Good.
I get more fiber from breakfast than most people get all week, I think.
Oh, absolutely. I think that's the key is getting it early. My kids that I'm allergic to oats, but my kids, that's what I feed them every day. Or when it's not an oatmeal day, they have a cup of beans and like some brown rice or something like that. I like to
Mm-hmm.
start my day before I eat. I have a cup of dark red miso soup. So I get that fermentation in there for my digestion. And then I make sure every day I have a cup of beans for breakfast and some dark leafy greens, maybe a grain if I'm in the mood. I think you got to get fiber early. You can't get your 40 to 50 grams at night. Like you got to, you got to spread it out
Yeah.
and that's protective. I think it makes the day go better too when you get it early.
I'm glad you said that because that is a good target. 40 to 50 grams of fiber per
Yeah.
day, which is, 15 grams, 12 to 15 grams of fiber per meal. And
Mhm.
when you're eating, and by the way, you don't need Metamucil. When
Oh,
you're eating whole food, plant-based meals with lots of fruits and vegetables, you're getting the fiber, like you're getting enough. And so 3 meals, you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and you'll hit the target. It's not difficult. I'd love to ask you, what your daily meal routine looks like, and obviously there's variation, all that kind of stuff. But what's it, sort of a typical go-to breakfast, lunch, and dinner for you, like just without thinking about it?
my favorite breakfast I had this morning, I had sauteed Brussels sprouts and a mixture of like brown rice with some yellow corn grits, like polenta, and a cup of black eyed peas. So that's a typical breakfast. At lunch, I like to do stir fries. I like to have at least a cup of beans for every breakfast and lunch. So sometimes I have tofu scramble with vegetables and quinoa in it. Or I love soups. I love soups and like bean kind of chili dishes. And then I keep my dinners light. This is just a lot of new research I've been exploring on sleep. I sleep better. I feel better. I maintain a healthier weight. When I'm eating dinner kind of early, I try to finish by 5 p.m. I'm no fun. And I just I have a light meal. I try to keep my dinners low protein. So I don't do beans in the evening usually. Just focus on veggies, like more complex carbs, maybe sweet potato. I do like an afternoon snack. I love to have, usually every afternoon, I'll have fresh blueberries, a couple of pistachios, and some dried tart cherries. That's my favorite snack. And I feel like that's kind of my energy pump up in the afternoon. But dinner's light, maybe fruit. I just feel so much better. And I feel so much clearer, like my mind in the morning by having those big protein and fiber rich meals earlier in the day. And then in the evening, just keeping it light. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's great. I love it. I eat all those foods, would totally enjoy that breakfast, lunch, and dinner routine. And it's very similar to breakfast, lunch, and dinner routines I've eaten for sure. And the light, I'm glad you brought up the dinner thing because, yeah, it's a great guideline to eat a light dinner or an early dinner.
Mhm.
right? Because if you eat a big dinner, that's cool. But if it's early, then, it's okay. But light and early is, maybe the best. And I've even done some personal experimentation with skipping dinners, just
Yeah.
eating breakfast and lunch, no dinner. And, I was really surprised that if I eat a big breakfast and a pretty, big lunch, when dinner time rolled around, I was expecting to be hungry and I wasn't. Like,
Yeah.
this is weird. Like, I'm fine. Like, I'm not even hungry. And even all the way to bedtime, like, I wasn't hungry at all. And so I've done a personal experiment there and felt great, slept great, and I typically am a pretty good sleeper. But anyway, those are things that, you listeners can experiment with, right? Eating early, eating a light dinner, don't skip breakfast, eat a big breakfast,
Yeah.
medium size to big lunch, light dinner, or skip dinner, and see how you feel.
Mhm. I noticed the biggest effect. I'm a recovering engineer, so I have one of those rings that tracks my sleep, and I get to see the graph. The aura. That's what I have, and I love. My husband and I did an experiment. It seems to be fat, which messes me up the most. If I have fat in the evening, no matter what time, it really changes the amount of like deep and REM sleep. And I never would have known that without looking at the ring, but it's really clear. And then I notice a difference in how I feel. So I think that's the biggest one for me: low protein, low fat in the evening, and I think it allows your body to be able to heal and recover and do what it needs to do at night. Um,
I've gotten some of my best sleep scores on the Aura ring when I was skipping dinner.
yeah.
I've been comparing the Aura and the Whoop. So
Oh,
the Aura is the ring and the
okay.
Whoop is the wrist device. And I have some buddies that use the Whoop, and the Whoop is really designed more for fitness. I mean, it is a fitness tracker and sleep tracker. The Aura, it really started as a sleep tracker, and then they kind of added more functionality to it. Well, there's a huge discrepancy in the reporting of these two devices.
Oh,
And with pretty much every night or every morning when I look at my sleep scores, the Whoop will tell me I got maybe an hour more of deep sleep than the Aura. I
that's a
mean,
big.
huge difference. Like the REM are within about 10 minutes of each other in terms of how much each one set I got. But the deep sleep, there's a big discrepancy. So I've got to go to a third option, which is probably to a sleep clinic and get some heavy duty, like, have them send me home with their equipment so I can see, like, okay, which one of these is more accurate, with the actual heavy duty sleep tracking equipment, because it's really annoying. They can't, I mean, one of them's wrong.
Yeah, and an hour of deep sleep is like night and day difference, and
Yeah.
that's when your brain flushes out toxins. Now I really want to know. I'm going to be dying to
Yeah.
hear the answer, because I kind of live and die by my aura. Like, my husband and I have a conversation. How much deep sleep did you get?
Right. Totally. And my she's got the Aura too. I even did an experiment. This was last night. This is fresh revelation here. Last night I wore both rings, both auras on different hands, and the reporting was similar but different.
Oh, like you wore her ring?
I wore her ring. Yeah.
Okay.
Mine on my right hand, hers on my left hand, and the scores were close, but they were not identical. And they were actually kind of flip flopped. Like, my right hand said that my recovery was better, my readiness was better, and my sleep was not as good. The left hand said my readiness was lower and my sleep was better. So, there's right.
Who knows?
Who knows?
I kind of think of it though, just the act of having one and being interested. Not that it makes you healthy, but I remember, like, as a young parent, I was reading, like, I buy all these parenting books and you never have time to read them. And I think it was Freakonomics or something where I was reading, and they were talking about parents who buy parenting books, even if they don't read them, they're inherently better parents because they had that interest and that intention,
That's interesting.
yeah. So I wonder if just
Just
like,
the book sitting on the shelf made you better.
yeah, I want it to be accurate, but I think just
Yeah.
having it and having that personal accountability, it counteracts all of the objections in my head. Like the doctor saying, "Oh no, your food has nothing to do with it." I'm like, it's right here. My food has has everything to do with it. So I
Yeah.
think
And it's
I iron all
even,
this out.
yeah. And even if it isn't 100% accurate, that remains to be seen which one is the most accurate tracker.
Yeah.
But yeah, you can definitely see real time which, how your previous day's behavior affected your sleep. Eating the late meal, eating the big dinner, alcohol will wreck your sleep. I
Yeah.
mean, I've experiment, one drink, terrible sleep. And
Yeah.
the sleep score, it reflected every time, not just one instant. Like every time I've tried, I'll have a glass of wine with dinner, boom, bad sleep score.
We completely stopped drinking after. We didn't drink very often, but after we got our Aura rings and we saw it, we completely stopped drinking because there's just no way around it
Yeah.
at all. Mm-hmm.
Yep. That's definitely a positive thing. Like you can just see, and it allows you to experiment, with your own routine and really see improvements. Like I said, skipping dinner, I was like, wow, that, my sleep is really pretty good when I skipped dinner. It was better, even though it's pretty good anyway. So fun stuff to tinker around with, folks. Well, this has been so much fun. I mean, you have so much great information to share. I love your attitude and your enthusiasm and your story. And I think it's going to really encourage a lot of women because again, they don't know what's causing endometriosis, right? Because if they knew it was causing it, they would tell you what to do to fix it, right?
Yeah.
And they can say like, oh, it's too much estrogen, but that's not really the cause.
Yeah.
And so most women don't know the cause. Most doctors don't know the cause, and obviously don't know that it can be healed, that your body can reverse this condition if you give it the right nutrients and care. And, eliminate the bad stuff, flood your body with the good stuff, and, let your miraculous self-healing body like work, right? Help it work. You've got to help yourself.
Yeah, I think so many women, we have an opportunity here. I remember after my healing, the news did a story on like what veterans are doing and covered my story. And I got emails from thousands of women saying, I remember being in tears that night reading them. The majority of them said, I was in your same situation. I had no idea. I had the hysterectomy and now I'll never have kids like I wanted to there. And that is still
That's
prevalent.
heartbreaking.
The majority of women, they're shocked when they hear my story and you have tremendous. I actually get excited over reproductive stuff because I feel like we have so much more control over our reproductive health than a lot of other issues, So I think it's really empowering and exciting for women to learn this and figure out, how to protect ourselves and prevent these things.
Well, someone very close to me had a large endometrial cyst. I think it was orange or grapefruit size. It was a big one.
Yeah.
Big one. And was told, probably not gonna be able to have kids, this kind of thing. And she was able to have it surgically removed and was able to have a son. So she has a little boy and is trying to have a second now. And it worked out great for her. And she definitely made some diet and some pretty strict diet and lifestyle changes, but then ended up going and having surgery. So, it's like, women just don't know, right? They don't know what they don't know. And I'm so glad you have this incredible inspirational healing story. That's not, I would not call it a miracle.
Right. No.
As I said earlier, I'm like, it's not a miracle. Okay. Like,
it's a miracle. It's the miracle of food. It has incredible power.
I can argue both sides. In one way, I could say the body is miraculous, right? The body is miraculous in its ability to heal.
Yeah.
But there are things that we need to do that we are doing that interferes with healing and promotes disease. And there's things that we can do that promote healing. And so it wasn't just like, again, medicine or a miracle. It was like you took massive action, you changed your life, you changed your diet. And one more question I want to ask is like, the diet was really the only thing you changed in the beginning, right? Like you weren't really doing changing your body care and all that kind of stuff in the first 5 weeks, right?
I just took meat and dairy out of my diet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And soda.
And so like, folks, that's the big lever right? That's the biggest lever you can pull, is changing your diet. Like, so one thing I talk about in Beat Cancer Daily is like, pull the big levers first.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can pull all the little levers, like, oh, changing your shampoo and your deodorant, your toothpaste. Like, you know, you can flip all those little switches, which are from negative to positive. But like, pull those massive levers. The big levers is what you're eating. The second biggest lever is exercising daily. And the third, in my opinion, is addressing stress and forgiveness.
Yeah.
like huge, right? These are huge things. But the diet and the exercise, you can start today.
Yeah.
Like, you can do that starting at your next meal. You can change what you eat. And exercise, you can find time today or tomorrow to start exercising, even if it's just going for a walk, 20-minute walk per day. Like, it will do you good. And so those are those are the actions you can take that get this healing momentum going, right? To get the ball rolling. And then once the ball's rolling, you figure it out as you go. You learn new things, you learn what to eat, you find recipes you like, you find new foods you like, right? You figure out an exercise routine you enjoy, then you start replacing all the little toxic junk in your life with healthy stuff. Like, you know, it's a process.
And you find community. You find
And
people,
you find support.
yeah, on that journey with you who want
Yeah.
that for you and
You
who
need it. Yeah. And
think,
so, perfect transition here. How can people connect with you, learn more about you, learn from you, you know, be a part of your community?
oh, thank you. So my website is www.foodsavedme.institute. It's also fsm.institute. I do have resources because we get so many women reaching out with endometriosis and things like that. So you'll find resources there on my journey and how I healed myself. But ours is Food Save Me Institute's a nonprofit, and our primary mission is teaching people how to do what I did, how to take this message into the community. We teach people how to teach nutrition and cooking classes and bring all of this valuable information to their community to help them spread this message. And we also have a lot of focus on business owners, just like I did. I found I can help more people if I have a good income to do that. So we teach business owners how to teach nutrition classes as a method of lead generation. So you're doing this awesome thing to genuinely help people while growing a business that supports it too. So we take all the scientific data and research, put it together in bite-sized pieces, provide the marketing, the class handouts. You don't have to do anything but press play on a video and make some fun recipes. So that's our mission. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share. I hope that they'll check it out. We've got some programs in Texas, California, online. We've got a Zoom program, and we've got instructors now teaching Food Save Me programs in 13 countries. So we're all over. It's such an important message. And gosh, I wish that this had been around 18 years ago when I got sick, right? For all those women who will never have children because they didn't know, I wish there was more of this plentiful. So we're looking for an army of people to bring this message to everyday people who don't even know.
I love it. We've been on parallel journeys,
Yeah.
right? For me since 2003, you since 2006, but everything that I do, my website, Chris Beat Cancer, I created because I wish it had existed when I needed it. Right.
Yes.
So like the same thing you're doing is like, you've created resources that you wish you had found early. And so I just think that's absolutely wonderful. And I want to encourage folks, go to fsm.institute, connect with Katherine Lawrence, you know, find your place in her ecosphere, learn from her. Definitely, please share this interview with people you know, women you know, because endometriosis is very common. And so many women have excess estrogen issues. And they just need to know that there is a solution, and it's not a difficult one.
Oh, no, it's easy. And it'll bring you so many other benefits. If I could add one more thing for the ladies, I recently, with some awesome women, started a podcast. It's called Confessions of a Plant Powered Sisterhood. And it's all about navigating sex, life, and aging through our 40s, 50s, and 60s, because all these changes are coming. And I think that's a time when women are told to do certain things like hormone therapies and things like that. And so we're just going to put it all out on the table, talk about what the three of us have done in these generations, and share solutions that are more holistic and healthy. So I hope you'll find us there too.
Great. We'll link to that in the show notes as well. So
yeah,
I'm glad you're doing it.
so fun.
That's definitely needed.
I've been watching. I agree. We are on this parallel thing. I think it's just an amazing blessing to go through this and then share it so other people don't have to. So thank you.
We're on the same team. It's awesome. Thanks again, Katherine. Great to connect. Fun interview. Folks, again, please share this with people you care about. Share it with women in your life. Share it with the men in your life who may have ED. Send them to that part of the interview. And thanks for watching and listening. We'll see you on the next one.